My phone lit up at 2:17 a.m. I almost didn't answer. 8 years of silence. And suddenly their names were on my screen. Mom, Dad. And when I finally picked up, all I heard was crying. Not the polite, quiet kind. The kind that sounds like something has broken. That's when everything changed. But to understand why that call mattered, you need to know why they stopped being my parents in the first place. I was 18 when they told me to leave. 18, still a kid, pretending to be an adult. We weren't a perfect family, but from the outside, we looked solid. Sunday dinners, church on holidays. My dad coached Little League. My mom posted smiling photos on Facebook with captions like, "So proud of my boy." I believed them. I believed we were unbreakable. But I was hiding something. Not something illegal. Not something violent. Just something that didn't fit into the life they had planned for me. I wanted to be an artist. They wanted a doctor. It sounds small when I say it like that. Almost laughable. But in our house, it wasn't small. It was betrayal. I remember the night I told them. Rain tapped against the kitchen windows. The TV was humming in the background. I had rehearsed the words in my head for weeks. "I'm not applying to med school," I said. My dad didn't even look up at first. "You already took the MCAT." "I know." Silence. Then he looked at me. Not confused, not curious, disappointed. My mom's fork froze halfway to her mouth. "I'm going to art school," I said, my voice shaking anyway, and I swear you could feel the temperature in the room drop. "That's not funny," my dad said. "Yeah, I'm not joking." My mom set her fork down slowly. "You're throwing your life away." That was the first time I realized their love might be conditional, but I wasn't ready for what happened next. The argument lasted hours. It moved from the kitchen to the living room and back again, like a storm that wouldn't pass. "You're being selfish. We sacrificed everything for you. You think painting pictures is a career?" At some point, my dad stood up and said something I'll never forget. "If you walk away from this family's values, don't expect to walk back in." I thought he was bluffing. I was wrong. 3 days later, my bags were by the door. My mom wouldn't look at me. My dad handed me an envelope with $300 in it. "That's more than you deserve," he said. The door closed behind me, and just like that, I wasn't their son anymore. I wish I could tell you I felt brave. I didn't. I felt small. I moved into a friend's couch for a few weeks, then into a basement apartment that smelled like mildew and old carpet. I worked at a coffee shop during the day and painted at night. There were nights I fell asleep on the floor because I couldn't afford a bed yet. I'd stare at the ceiling pipes and wonder if I had ruined my life. I checked my phone constantly those first few months. No calls, no texts, no, "Are you okay?" Nothing. That silence hurt more than the screaming. Then the extended family started reaching out, not to check on me, to lecture me. "You broke your mother's heart. Your father is humiliated. You could have had everything." Every word felt like a reminder that I was alone. I stopped answering. I stopped explaining. I just worked. I painted until my hands cramped. I submitted my work to small galleries, got rejected, again and again. I ate instant noodles most nights. The sodium headaches were real, and sometimes, late at night, I'd open my mom's Facebook page. She had stopped posting about me, like I had never existed. That was the lowest point, not the hunger, not the exhaustion. It was the feeling of being erased. There was one night I remember clearly. The power had gone out in my apartment because I was late on the bill. I sat there in the dark, phone flashlight on, looking at a half-finished canvas, and I thought about quitting. I thought about calling my dad and saying, "You were right." I even dialed the number, but I didn't press call. Something in me refused. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was stubbornness. Maybe it was survival. That's when everything slowly began to shift. A small local gallery agreed to display 2 of my pieces. It wasn't glamorous. The walls were chipped. The lighting was bad. But my name was on the tag. Someone bought one. For $400. I remember holding that check in my hands like it was a winning lottery ticket. Not because of the money, but because it meant I wasn't crazy. I wasn't delusional. I kept going. One show led to another. A blogger featured my work. Then a small magazine. I started getting commissions. Not huge ones. but enough. By 23, I wasn't rich, but I was stable. I had my own apartment, a real bed, a couch that didn't sag in the middle, and still, no word from them, not even on my birthday. I told myself I didn't care anymore, but I did. Every success felt incomplete, like applause in an empty room. Then at 26, everything changed again. A major art curator reached out after seeing my work online. She invited me to showcase at a larger exhibition downtown. I almost didn't believe the email was real. The night of the exhibition, I wore a suit that didn't quite fit right. My hands were sweating. The room was packed. Glasses clinked. People whispered in front of my paintings. I heard strangers say things like powerful and raw. I wanted my parents to see it. I hated that I wanted that. By the end of the night, 3 large pieces sold. One to a well-known collector. That sale changed my financial life. But more than that, it changed my confidence. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was surviving. I felt like I had built something. And that's when the universe decided to twist the knife. The 2:17 a.m. phone call. 8 years after they shut the door, I almost let it ring out. But something in my chest tightened. I answered. Hello? All I heard was my mom crying. Real crying. Please, she said between sobs. We need you. I sat up in bed. The glow of the phone lit up the dark room. What happened? My dad had lost his business. Bad investments, debt, pride. They were on the verge of losing the house. The same house I was kicked out of. And here's the part that messed with my head. They had called every relative. No one could help. I was the last option. I waited for an apology. It didn't come. Instead, my dad got on the phone. His voice sounded older. We wouldn't ask if we had another choice. Not we're sorry, not we were wrong, just need. And in that moment, 8 years of hurt rose up in my throat. I could have said no. Part of me wanted to. I thought about the nights in the dark, the $300 envelope, the silence. I could have let them feel it, but I wasn't ready for what happened next. I heard my mom whisper in the background, "He doesn't owe us anything." That was the closest thing to an apology I had ever heard from her, and something in me cracked. Not anger, not revenge, something softer. I asked them to send me the numbers, the debts, the deadlines. I didn't promise anything. I didn't comfort them. I just listened. For the first time in years, we spoke like human beings. Not roles, not expectations, just people. When the call ended, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling. I could save them. Technically, it would wipe out a huge chunk of my savings. The money I had worked 8 years for. The security I had built alone. And here's the truth no one talks about. Success doesn't erase pain. It just gives you options. By morning, I had made my decision. I wired the money. Not all of it. Enough to stop the bleeding. Enough to keep the house. Then I drove there. 8 years. The house looked smaller. My dad opened the door. He looked fragile, older than I remembered. For a second, we just stood there. Then he stepped aside. Come in. The same hallway, the same pictures on the wall, except there was a gap where my graduation photo used to be. My mom hugged me, tentatively, like she wasn't sure she was allowed to. And then she said it. Mosh, we were wrong. 4 words 8 years late, but real. My dad didn't cry. He just sat down at the kitchen table and said, I thought I was protecting you. I didn't realize I was pushing you away. We talked for hours, not about art, not about money, about fear, about pride, about expectations. They admitted they were embarrassed when I left. They thought cutting me off would scare me into coming back. They never expected me to survive. That stung, but it was honest. I didn't move back home. I didn't magically become the perfect son again, but something shifted. We started slow. Coffee once a month, awkward birthdays, gradual rebuilding. The money I sent didn't fix everything, but it forced us to face what we had avoided for years. And here's the part that surprised me the most. I didn't regret helping them. Not because they deserved it, but because I didn't want to become someone who only loved conditionally. I had spent years proving I could succeed without them. I didn't need their approval anymore, and that changed everything. Today, I'm 30. My relationship with my parents isn't perfect, but it's real. They've come to my exhibitions. My dad once stood in front of one of my paintings and said, "I don't fully understand it, but I'm proud of you." That meant more than he'll ever know. Sometimes I think about that 18-year-old version of me standing outside with a suitcase. If I could talk to him, I wouldn't tell him it gets easier, because it doesn't. I'd tell him it gets clearer. Pain has a way of stripping away illusions, of forcing you to build your identity from the ground up. And sometimes the people who break you are the same ones who eventually teach you who you are. But I still think about that night. 2:17 a.m., the phone glowing in the dark. If I hadn't answered, if I had let it ring, would we still be strangers? Would I feel lighter or heavier? I don't know. All I know is this. Walking away made me strong. Coming back made me whole. So tell me honestly, if the people who disowned you called one day, crying and desperate, would you answer?